Welcome back, regular knife people, to another regular guys knife channel show. Tonight, kind of bringing you a little bonus video here. Um, Not really a bonus video, seeing as how I promised you guys a sharpening video like 2 weeks ago. I did do the video. It was boring. It was it was painfully boring. It was just a dude trying to make sharpening a knife, interesting, and it wasn't. Um, Got to the end, and then I realized that I hadn't, done any equipment maintenance, and my sharpener was completely covered in sharpening slurry smooths, and it looked terrible. And so that was my final excuse, and I didn't end up uploading the video. Yeah. So, you know, gonna leave it at that. And a good buddy of mine got in touch with me and let me know he was a little upset because I hadn't showed off the new TSProf uh, L adapters, and he was interested in picking up a pair and really wanted to check mine out and was really hoping I'd do the video and show them off. So so here I am. All right, we'll do a video and I'll briefly go over these parts. I've covered my sharpener before in the past. I used the TSProf, the Cadet. This is the Cadet Nero, which is like a regular Cadet except it's black. You know, not the new Cadet Pro, which has that nice little rack and pinion adjuster. But I don't find that I miss it much. It's fine. So yeah. So I just I'm going to show off the new L adapters that I'm using here on my Prof. They're yeah I maybe not 100-fold increase in the usability of this setup, but definitely like an 80% increase. In fact, I think they should probably be included as a standard part with this and the KO3. It's the Cadet's bigger brother. They should have been included from the beginning, but that's here nor there. Essentially, what they do, I'll pull one out here, is they increase the flexibility here of your blade holders. So two of these parts, very very nicely and well machined parts here, bolt to the back of your blade holders. And essentially what they do is they allow you to either A, push your blade holders closer together so you get over the center screw here for holding much smaller knives, much like, let's see, for holding guys like a dragonfly there, right? Or they can be flipped over and used to increase the width of your blade holder, right? Absolutely awesome, right? Again, though, the features that maybe should have been originally included with the machine, but as far as prof upgrades go, they're like $49, so they're really not they're on the lower end of expenses, especially when you're looking at buying, say, a center blade holder, an actual TSProf made, center blade holder. You're looking at over $100. $49 is not that bad of a deal here, and they work really really well, machined really well. Everything just fits up, just perfect. Prior to getting these guys, I was using this for my smaller blades, kind of a Frankensteinian amalgamum of a couple of different parts and an adapter from Gritomatic to allow me to use a different brand's blade holders. It worked. It works. It's okay. It does the job. Not super convenient. Not super easy to use. It does require just a little bit of setup. And then you got to drop everything in place and just it is what it is. But for roughly the same price as that setup, and you get you a set of these L adapters. And those L adapters, like I said, they do one of two things. One, they allow you to put your blade holders together over the center pivot here, making it much easier for you to get smaller blades, locked in for sharpening. Or they can be flipped over to allow you to clamp some much longer blades than what you were, than are what are easy to clamp and in the standard setup. Now that's not to say you can't do some pretty big blades with the setup as stock, but this just gives you a much more secure way to fit. Wow, I don't even have a knife big enough to max those out yet. But it just gives you a much more secure way to clamp those much larger blades. A lot of times, the name of the game with these jig systems is a good, solid, secure clamp of that blade. Because if you're not solidly securing that blade and keeping it, exactly in the same spot for each rotation, that you're doing on the, sharpening here, then what's the point? What's the point of having a jigged system anyways, right? So these L adapters, they do allow for a much broader range of adjustability, for you clamping a much broader range of knives, to the system. They work well, they lock in, they fit really tight, excuse me, ooh, on the track here, and they just work. And like all things, from Prof, they're absolutely beautifully machined. Um, if you're a tool whore, then Prof is the way to go. I've used quite a few different sharpening systems out there. I've been through most of the popular ones. My last big sharpening setup prior to this was the Edge Pro. Loved the Edge Pro for years because that's what was available. And then when the Prof started hitting the market, then I transitioned. Um, I liked how systems like the Lansky, clamped my blade into place, and I felt like it would just give me a little bit more consistent edge. I didn't have to hold the knife there, while I was sharpening it, but then the 1x6 stones that I got on the Edge Pro were were that much better than what was available on the Lansky, and so obviously the Edge Pro, won out. My big gripe with the Edge Pro was this plastic construction. Um, Sharpening grit slurry like to get embedded in that plastic, and sure enough, no matter how well you taped up that knife, you were going to scratch it. Plus constantly holding it there and trying to keep it on the flat, the edge on that one consistent angle, while you were sharpening, and then being consistent on both sides. It took too much concentration, and I was thinking too much, right, while I was sharpening. I was having to pay too much attention to what I was doing. And some of them bigger knives, or some of them duller knives, or knives that you were having to reprofile, man, you hour and a half behind the jig. You It wasn't a relaxing process, and it became a chore, and I was sharpening my knives a lot less than I should have been, and I wasn't doing just maintenance on those edges because it was a setup, it was a chore, it was big. I had to suction cup it to something. I had to, it just wasn't fun. I mean, it wasn't bringing anything more to the table than using, say, a sink bridge and some good quality whetstones. In fact, it was less capable. The difference being is it takes a little bit of skill and technique to use those whetstones versus the much shallower learning curve on a jigged system. And so when the Prof became available and it hit the market, and I saw a couple of reviews, then the Edge Pro was on its way out. Bonus, I was able to reuse my Edge Pro stones on my Prof. They'll take your standard 1x6 stones. So I only had to replace the jig. I didn't have to replace my sets of stones, which was nice because I just dropped stupid money on a set of Shaptons. Shapton glass stones for that thing. So, I was able to reuse them over onto my Prof. I've been using the Cadet now for probably a little bit over a year. I've had on this system, and I really loved it. A few of my gripes and moans um, have pretty much been answered by these guys here. The other nice thing, kind of a fringe benefit, is they do push your knife out just a little bit further, uh, which allows you to get a slightly shallower angle, while you're sharpening. A lot of times, you're kind of stuck at a fixed angle because you gotta be able to get up and over a thumb stud on a knife, and these allow you to go just a little bit shallower than you were able to before because they're pushing your knife out a bit further, so you can get just a little bit shallower angle without hitting that thumb stud and grinding the edges of it off or whatever. But yeah, I mean, they're these things are an absolute no brainer. They're super easy to use. I don't have to actually take blade holders off. I'm not removing parts. You loosen them up, you flip them over to whichever way you want, whichever orientation you need them. You tighten them back down, and then away you go. So they have vastly. Boy, how did I torque that one down? Ugh, I'll have to get at this guy here. I didn't mean to put that one on beast mode, but so there are. Like I said, everything is. This system, man, it's just like I said. If you're into tools, this is such a well made, well machined, well put together system. It feels it's nice, man. To if I'm sharpening up an $800 knife, it's kind of nice to know that I'm doing it on a system that's had as much thought and energy and time put into it. It just works. Granted, I'm trying to justify the the money spent on something like this. Versus, but I spent plenty more on knives that I never used. So you know yeah, your mileage may vary, but I've been extremely happy with my setup. Been extremely happy with the Cadet. It's handled just about everything I've thrown at it. Now with the L adapters, I can do a lot more with it. It has definitely increased the capabilities of my machine. With a couple of little cheap upgrades that I've done to it, like this big thick heavy steel base plate that I clamp it to. It kind of helps keep it stationary and from moving a little bit. I've got let's see, this guy here. I made this out of a 1 inch piece of round brass, and what I do is I hang this on the end of my guide rod there when I'm doing my when I'm doing the stropping, and it helps me just kind of counterbalance that strop and keep a much lighter touch, especially when you're using like these guys here. So this is the Gen I don't remember what they call this, microfiber strop, or what a cloth strop, whatever. It's the Gen strops, right? It's a bit spongy, and if you put too much downward pressure on that strop while you're using it, it wants to kind of wrap around the edge of the blade, and you'll actually start dulling the knife. I've you can actually strop away some of that edge that you worked so hard to get on the blade if you press too hard. And because there's so much friction on there and there's so much drag, the tendency is for you to want to kind of pull down as you strop, and you're going to start getting that round over effect. By putting that brass weight on the end, it kind of lightens it up, and it keys me in. Oh, hey, you got to be gentle with it. You can't don't try to gorilla it down. And it keeps a much lighter touch on that strop as I'm using it, and so I get a much more effective use. But I just kind of wanted to show off these guys here, these L adapters, which I'm pretty positive is the actual official name of these. and get those out there for my buddy. So there you've seen them, right? And we don't have to drag the sharpener setup out here in many more videos. I'm like I said, I've got the Cadet, not the big full size KO3. I didn't think I was going to need the KO3, and in all reality, I don't need the KO3, but I will be upgrading to the KO3. They've got the new Pro out there that has the integrated angle finder on the guide rod. And in use, it's a slight difference. Whereas on the Cadet, your stone is the fixed position, and your blade moves up and down. On the KO3, your blade stays in a fixed position and becomes essentially your bevel becomes a zero angle with your stone your stone and guide setup is what elevates and lowers. Um, yeah, I mean, either way, check with a laser and a known quantity factory edge, say like Spyderco's, we know they're all 20 degrees. This thing is dead on. You set it up correctly like you're supposed to. You take your measurements where you're supposed to take them. If it says you're doing a 20-degree edge, you're doing a 20-degree edge. So as far as accuracy goes, this thing is as accurate as you'd ever need it. I mostly want the KO3 because it's bigger and flashier, and that's kind of the way tools work, right? We don't necessarily buy the ones we need. We buy the ones that were, that look the sexiest, right? So again, your mileage may vary. I just a quick short bonus video, get that out there and show off my new L adapters and how they look on the machine and how they kind of work in operation and so yeah. So just in case you were wondering, that is the TSProf L adapter. I appreciate you guys. If you guys made it through all 17 minutes of this video, I know it's a sharpening video and they're god awfully boring, but yeah, I appreciate you guys coming along and watching me tonight, and I hope you have a great rest of your evening. This is the Regular Guy on the Regular Guy's Knife channel, and we're signing off.